The views and opinions expressed on this program do not reflect the company, owners, management, staff, clients, or partners.
Greetings and welcome to another episode of Bermuda's Feel Good Early Morning Show. Good day, Bermuda, supported by Pete's House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri alongside Jackie Lambert, and we want to thank you for getting up bright and early with us on this hump day. Jack, how you feeling? I actually haven't heard Star this morning. Is she sleeping?
No, but she actually might be sleeping because she thought it was playtime at 2 and she thought it was playtime at 4 a.m. So I had to let her out. I'm just like, okay, I thought you had to use the bathroom. And she looked around. She's just like, pew, pew, pew. And I was like, because I have to be up in an hour and a half and you're just ready to go. So I gave her a few chew toys, put her back to sleep. I passed out and then I just heard her. She has a snake and it's just like, I'm just like, I'm never going to sleep again in life.
You can't get them the noisy toys. They're going to make all the noise with them.
But it kept her occupied. So I got like half an hour more sleep. And now I'm probably ripping the rest of my couch to shreds. I have like one cushion left.
Oh, well, despite poor Star ripping up your couch, we're definitely ready to bring you guys some feel good vibes this morning. So make sure if you haven't already, share this episode wherever you're watching and drop a good morning comment to us wherever you're watching. I wanted to give a shout out to Sean Smith. Good morning to you. And thank you so much for joining us. Today, our feel good topic of the day is creative ways to improve your emotional and mental health. We're going to be talking with Hayley and Richelle of CAF Bermuda. That's a conversation, Jackie and I love to talk about mental health, but it's definitely one that you want to participate in because despite the panorama still going on, we definitely all need some new ways for us to protect our emotional and mental health. And in speaking of that, if you want a laugh to get your morning started, make sure you stick around for our feel good vibe of the day, which is joke time with Jackie. Now, to get you warmed up for this conversation that we're going to have before we talk to Richelle and Hayley, y'all know how we do. We got to get you a little warm-up conversation. And Twitter, as it always does, had a nice little conversation yesterday, which I think this is a recycled conversation because we've had it before. We have it all the time on social media. We want to know, how do you feel, that some Bermudians selectively choose to consider Bermuda as a part of the Caribbean? Yes or no? Let us know in the comments and we'll all elaborate a little bit more. Jackie, do you feel we're selective in, or some, and I won't say all of us, do you think some of us are selective?
Yes, absolutely. All the time. She's saying boat wins something. Yeah, that's my boy, Caribbean Unite. And I'm just like, but yesterday you're just like, I'm part of the Caribbean. So like, wow. So yeah. Yes, and it's been happening for decades. So I'm not surprised. It's just what makes you think that, I don't know, geographically, I would say we're not. But when it comes to ancestry and where we came from, part of our, our ancestors were from the Caribbean. So, I mean, it depends on, I guess, your family tree, how they select. But
I know last year, I want to say Burmese posted that, or someone posted the West Indian heritage, like linkage, and you can see if your last name was one of these last names. This is like the West Indian country that your family came from. And I remember the person posted it and then Burmese retweeted it. And like there were so many people like saying, oh yeah, my family's from this country, my family's from that country. They're like, I always knew that, or whatever the case may be. And I was like, well, I remember when we were younger, y'all would like turn up your noses to being Caribbean. And I would have this argument. Like I would say, yeah, sure, we're not geographically Caribbean, but culturally we are. And it's very obvious that culturally we are because we have had people from different Caribbean countries come
Yeah.
to our island. So it's like
I'm a claimer.
I claimed them from
I'm
young.
just like, I mean, we know why I'm culturally claiming them. Why? Because of the food.
Precisely. Like, why do we act as if we don't remember or we don't know why we do it? And I want to bring this comment in from Q Robinson. She says, good, or he, excuse me, says, good morning from the Fabulous Clan, and good morning to you all. Thank you so much for watching us. And Carson Fleming says, we shouldn't be. I claim them as we are culturally similar. And I think that's kind of I think the interesting part is like the person who posted it on Twitter was like, here Remedians go again. Like, here you guys go. Like, something must have happened. Maybe it's Rihanna and ASAP Rocky announcing their baby is on the way, and now everyone all of a sudden wants to be Bermudians want to all be considered Caribbean again.
Yeah.
And it's like,
pick one, pick a lane and stay in it.
what I think is also interesting too about it, it's like, I understand that because geographically we're not a part of the Caribbean, it may make you feel like, oh, you're not a part of it. But I know when I went away to school, my accent to the naked American was West Indian. They thought that I was from some Caribbean country or New York by way of a Caribbean country. So I just think I don't understand why Bermudians have such a tough time grasping the concept that, I mean, it's okay, guys. It's not a bad thing. It's not the end of the world. I also wonder though if it's related to the fact that back in the day there was this disjointed relationship between us and other folks from the Caribbean, and maybe that's kind of carried on over the years. So Bermudians don't want to like rally around being considered Caribbean. Maybe that's it.
I feel like we have a complex for sure. Like
So,
the black group, the white group, and we're the mixed group, and we're not fully accepted in either. So we're just kind of like in the middle, and we're just like, hey,
we're here.
We're here. We want to be a part of something too. Accept that.
And that's this point from Sean Smith. He says, I guess Bermudians feel like the outside child. Maybe that is it. Like, I guess we just don't feel like we fit in per se. So we're like trying super hard to
stand out. Never.
Live out loud. Definitely, but Bermudians definitely we do live out loud. That is for sure. And I wonder too if it is based on what's popping at the time, whether we'll consider ourselves Caribbean or not. Because like I said, the last time I remember this conversation coming up was around the picture that was posted around the last names. And then I haven't seen too much Caribbean conversation since then. And now we're in a new cycle. Maybe it's because it's New Year. Like maybe it's a once a year thing. We just gotta bring it back.
If it's a good thing, like, you know how it'd be like, that's your parent or that's your child today. Your child's acting up, and it's just like, I have nothing to do with that part of that child. My child did great today. And it's just like, oh, so you get the child when it's bad, I get the child when it's bad. Yes, exactly.
That's a great analogy. I definitely feel like that may be what it is. And so also I watched a conversation last week around, it was a bunch of different folks from the different Caribbean islands, and it was nice to see there were two Bermudians that I remember on the conversation speaking about independence and the journey to become independent, and why, you know, certain countries were able to do it, why others, Bermuda, have not. And it was interesting in that conversation, like there was no real distinction between Bermudian being Caribbean, the other countries being Caribbean. It was more about colonized nations and the colonizer, which I think we see it in the Black community. There's colorism, so there's like another layer of separation, which is unnecessary. Can't we all just get along and be one? Dang it!
It would be nice. I think you jinxed me.
Why? Oh, stars. I don't hear Star.
Ripping up something.
Well, I won't ask about her again then. I'll let you tell me how she's doing. Maybe it's the last long pillow. It's the last pillow that you needed. You don't need no more pillows. That's what she's trying to tell you.
For a new couch. I don't know. It sounded like it was a paper bag or a box. Oh my God.
It's something slight. Watch. It's not. It's gonna be one of her toys. It's fine.
Yeah,
Let it go.
Clean up when I get back to the other side of my house.
It's fine. I want to bring this comment from Sean Smith. He says, when I was growing up, we were told we were better than our Caribbean brothers and sisters. Maybe that is what it is. Because I personally, in my growing up age, I don't remember ever being told specifically, like, the other West Indian folks are less than you. But I heard it, like I could kind of hear that type of conversation, but I didn't really internalize it because I'm like, that's dumb.
Yeah, I've never heard that one because here it goes. My cousin's granny, one of her grannies, was actually from St. Kitts. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just always assumed we were all somehow related to everybody over there. We just took a longer route or what I got dropped off on the way.
We definitely did. I mean, and so it's very selective. Definitely, it's interesting too when people kind of jump into the conversation because it's like, what new do you have to offer to this conversation? Like, are we just talking about it to talk about it, or are we like actually going to be trying to
I wish we had a family
insert ourselves?
Actually go back, but honestly, I don't know how we can even navigate all of that because, like, slavery, they just get on board and no papers, whereas they can go back centuries and they know exactly where well, not all of them, not everybody, but where their ancestors came from. I know you could do the whole DNA swap thing.
I don't trust them people.
But I want to, okay, that's another conversation. I want to know who my great granny was and what she did back in the day. You never know. She could have been the neighborhood chef, and that's why I'm so addicted to food.
That's why you're a foodie. It would be interesting to see how many of us do have roots that came through the Caribbean so that we can like dead this conversation once and for all. Like, all right, stop. We're all Caribbean. Let's move on to how we're going to become independent. Let's move on to how we're going to move beyond the panorama. Like, let's move on to things that probably a little bit more, I don't know, meaningful right now. And this whole Caribbean, non-Caribbean situation, just let it go, guys. Just let it go. Want to bring this one last comment in before we go to our first commercial break and bring in our guest of the day. Nicholas Butterfield says, I think it just ties back to geographically no, but culturally yes, in terms of food, music, etc. I definitely think that's what it is, right? Jacky was like, the food.
Nicholas, he knows it. He gets it. The food.
And he started with the food too. Jacky and I are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back with our guest of the day. We have Richelle and Hayley of CAF Bermuda backstage, and we are ready to talk with you about creative therapeutic ways to improve your emotional and mental health. So make sure you stick around. Jacky and I will be right back.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pizza's and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terry Tuku alongside Jacky Lambert. And if you're just joining us, please take a minute to share this episode wherever you're watching because we're about to transition to our feel-good topic of the day. We have Richelle Richards and Hayley Francis Cann of CAF Bermuda. We are going to be discussing creative therapeutic ways to improve your emotional and mental health. This is the conversation that Jacky and I have just about every episode. We say every week. We used to say every week, and now it's like every episode because in every episode we have a moment where we just bring up mental health in some way, shape, or form. So I'm really excited to have these two ladies join us this morning. So as always, help us welcome today's guests, Richelle and Hayley, to Good Day Bermuda by dropping a good morning message in the comments or use your favorite good morning emoji to welcome them as I'm going to bring them into the conversation right now. I'm going to bring in Richelle first. Good morning, Richelle.
Good morning, Terry.
I'm going to bring in Hayley next. Good morning, Hayley.
Good morning. How are you?
We are well. So we want to just jump right into this conversation and start with your educational background. So Richelle, can you go first and let us know, where did you go to school? Why did you choose this particular profession? And then Hayley will come to you next.
All right. So I have a bachelor's in fine art education. I went to Keene in New Jersey, Union, New Jersey. And then I went to Derby, University of Derby, where I got my MA in art therapy. And my professional title is art psychotherapy through the, what's it called? HCPC. in the UK, and I am a member of the British Association of Art Therapists.
Wow. That's amazing. Hayley, we'll go next with you.
That's impressive.
Sure. I did a bachelor's of music therapy at Acadia University. I know there are a lot of Bermudian community that go there too, so Acadia. And then after that, I had to do a 1,000-hour internship where I was able to get my board certification under the Canadian Association of Music Therapists. I then went on to do a Master's of Science in Aging and Health because I was specializing in older adult care, working with older adults that have dementia, Alzheimer's, and in stroke rehabilitation.
Wow. Just a lot of great credentials.
Yeah. So Richelle, let's go with you first. I want to know
Yeah.
why you chose this particular therapy.
Okay. So because I'm an artist at heart, I've always enjoyed creating and doing artwork. And when I was at Cann, I did my student teaching in a primary school in Short Hills. And my student teacher said, "So Richelle, what are you going to do for your master's?" And I was like, "I'm not doing a master's. I just want to get this 4 years done, and I want to get out of here, and I want to go home." And she mentioned to me that she had a friend that worked in the hospital at in Short Hills, and he was working with in the pediatric ward with children that had cancer, and he was doing art therapy. And I was like, okay, I need to know more about this. And this was before the internet, so I had to go really research what art therapy was, and I fell in love with it. So from then on, all of my classes in my undergrad became my electives. All were to get me into my master's program. So before I actually started off at Pratt in that program. So before I graduated from Cann, I was accepted into Pratt. I did a year and came home, and then I started teaching. And I will tell everybody I was masquerading as a teacher because I always knew that I wanted to become an art therapist. And when my daughter finished Berkeley, I said, you know what, it's about time that I do this and I finish it. And that's when I transitioned over to the UK, and I finished in at Derby University, and I specialized in children's traumatic incidents like childhood adverse trauma and things like that.
Wow.
So it's a journey. It was a journey.
Definitely.
Hayley, you want to go next?
Yeah, I mean, I knew I was always a creative person. My whole family are very musical. So I grew up probably singing before I learned how to properly form a sentence. And so I was involved in lots of bands and choirs from a very, very young age. I think I picked up my first instrument was a trumpet in a Salvation Army band in Bermuda. And so that was like my gateway into music. And then I grew up, and I don't know how you can be good at the recorder, but anyway, in primary school, it's got to be the most annoying instrument that you can practice at home. So sorry to all the parents out there whose children have the recorder as the first instrument. But anyway, from that, I then decided, my music teacher said, well, why don't you try the saxophone? And so I went and I studied the saxophone. That was my principal instrument in university. And I was looking at programs when I was in high school. I went to Work Academy, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. I knew that I didn't want to be a teacher. I'd grown up with teachers my whole life, and I knew that I could do it if I wanted to, but I didn't really want to go down that path. I knew there was more that I could accomplish with my creativity. And I discovered music therapy. I hadn't heard anything about it before. And the university that I was going to actually had one of the 4 programs in Canada. So I think it was just like, it was fate. It was meant to be that I was at that university and that they had one of the 4 programs in the entire country at that school. So I switched paths from a general Bachelor of Music degree to music therapy in my second year, and here I am.
And I want to ask, can you speak to us about like what happens in the brain when you're focusing on your specific art for therapy? So we'll start with you here. Like, what happens to the brain when you're focused on music as a form of therapy? What are some of the pros of it?
Yeah, so there are lots of things that are happening because music is one of those mediums that happens on both your left and right hemispheres of the brain. It gives it a lot of, there's a lot of gateway to different kinds of emotional responses, physical responses, cognitive responses, language, all of these things, because music is happening and being processed on both sides of your brain. So when it comes to emotion specifically, different hormones are released when you're interacting in musical experiences, both by yourself or with other people. Mostly, things like dopamine and serotonin. Those are like your feel-good hormones that are kind of released when you're engaged in musical experience. And those are the kinds of things that doctors would also say are things that help you when you're feeling depressed. Those hormones being released are something that would help to naturally stimulate you. Or things when, certain attention deficit disorders, you would prescribe medications with those hormones in them, and they help to stabilize your emotions so that you're able to focus on tasks. So there are lots and lots of things that are happening. But when you're engaged in these experiences and you have a trained therapist, they can tap into exactly what you need to accomplish when you're coming to therapy with a specific goal.
I love that. And then Richelle, so are there any differences when you're focused on, like, because I'm assuming like the art that you're doing is like maybe drawing or painting and things like that. So what are some of the differences that are happening in our brain when we're doing that type of art therapy?
It's similar to what Hayley mentioned, but also to add to that is that because I specialize in trauma, the traumatic episodes that happen in situations are, because like Hayley mentioned, we have the left and the right side of the brain. The traumatic episodes are stored in your right side of your hemisphere. So talk therapy is a little difficult to access that. And for art related activities, that happens on the right side of your brain. So it's easier to grasp those incidents on the right side using art and creative methods because it can access the trauma that talk therapy can't get to.
That's like, did not know that. Like,
Yeah.
mind blown
Yeah.
already.
So
Thank
that's
you for
why
that.
when you get into when you get in an accident and somebody says, "Oh, tell me what happens." Usually you don't know, you can't find the words to describe it because that information is not stored on your left side, it's stored on the right.
Wow. Okay. So
I'm
definitely
learning
learned something new today.
so much today. Hayley, I want to come back to you because you had mentioned music with, I think you said ADHD people. So I have some kids that the parents was like, oh, he has ADHD. Is there something like a certain music that I could probably play while, teaching tennis that I could have like in the background that's more so like tapping into their subconscious that could maybe help them focus more while teaching them?
Well, there's a lot of research that says that classical music really helps with focus and attention. But with somebody that already struggles with attention challenges, then I think it would just be a key of asking them what kind of music they best relate to. And that can be tricky when you're working with groups. So everybody has their own preferences, right? But if there can be something that you can bring to get everybody together and have one kind of unified consensus about what they would like to listen to, I would say without words, if you're trying to focus on another activity, because that would be a lot for the brain to process in tandem. But definitely, if you can find something that everybody can relate to, that would also foster a sense of cohesion and just team bonding in that sense as well with something like sports.
I love that you said classical music because that's my go-to for everything. I'm like, classical. My friends will walk into my house and they're just like, really? You're just sitting here? And I'm just like, because it has no words. I can sit, I can read, I'm not getting distracted, and it actually,
yeah.
Wow, now that I think about it, it really focuses me in.
Yeah, and it's different for everybody. Like when I sit down and I have like a big research paper to write or something, I sit down and I listen to instrumental reggaeton music. So different for everybody. Whatever works for you works for you.
I love that. I'm definitely I like electronic study music. So it's kind of fast, upbeat, but it has no words. Definitely the words will definitely distract you. I could totally appreciate that. Now, now, Richelle, I think this next question will go to you. So an audience member, Sean Smith, asks, how does the therapy work? Do you play or draw your emotions? So specifically in your specialization, do they draw out their emotion? Like how are you kind of working through this those emotions or the trauma, excuse me, with them?
Yeah, it starts with conversation, and we get into an art activity. You know, it can be anything, because a lot of people say, "Oh, well, I can't draw. I don't know what to do." So it's important to understand that art therapy is not about your skill level; it's about the process. So I have tons of materials, from woodwork to clay to pencils to crayons to paint to watercolors, yarn, sewing machine. I have the gamut. And it's up to the individual to decide, okay, I feel like doing this today. If they don't know what they want to do, I might bring in an activity that's quite simple, and it might even start off with a scribble drawing, because you can get information from a scribble as well. And that can start the conversation. So the artwork is the go-between between myself and the client, and then the conversation comes out of that to make connections to what might be happening in their life.
I love that. And this comment from Janae earlier, like, you definitely learn something new every day. And I feel like this entire conversation is opening my eyes to a different form of therapy that I probably wouldn't have maybe thought about on first hand, because we're so used to the talk therapy, go to a therapist, sit down, have a conversation. But these two ways seem like they could just add them to your arsenal, just add them to your options.
But you know what, Tara, I want to add something more, because other than Hayley and myself, we also have another art therapist that's named Rhea, and she started in Spain, and she is actual bilingual. So she can access the Spanish population of Bermuda, and she can practice in Spanish. And we have a dance therapist, Shadrina Hassel, who is amazing. And we also have a student therapist. Her name is Treasure Tenick, and she does drama therapy. So together we have a collective, we have a creative collaborative. And I would also add that we are all young women of color, which is amazing.
I love that, and appreciate you for sharing that, because I was like, oh wait, because I definitely do dance therapy. That's definitely my thing.
Yeah. That's dance moving. So we have the whole gambit of creative collaborative, which actually together, all of us together, can access different parts of the body and the brain to remove different traumas. So we're doing it big at CAF.
I love it.
Absolutely. And the fun part is, as you're naming people off, I don't know the person that worked in Spain, but I do know Shadrina and Treasure. So Treasure that went to work academy.
I believe so. She's in NYU right now. So she's going to be our student therapist that's going to be delivering drama therapy via telehealth.
I love that.
Yeah.
And obviously, we're Black women, so we love that representation as well.
And we also want to dismiss the stigma that Black people don't go to therapy.
Yes, exactly.
Because we need to talk. And your conversation when I was in the background about that generational trauma is real, because we people of color, we don't know where we actually come from, and that kind of takes a bit from our story. And in bringing that together, therapy is the perfect place to do that.
Indeed. And I actually want to ask this comment, and I guess it'll go to the question, to both of you. So Frederica Evans asks, how do you determine what type of therapy is right for the client? So Hayley, you can go first, and then Richelle will come to you.
Yeah, that's an excellent question, because not every form of therapy is going to be the right fit. Not every therapist is going to be the right fit for you. And so I would say the intake process that therapists have is really crucial, because then you get to know the kind of person that you're going to work with. So I would suggest, if you're considering going to therapy, asking questions about what the therapist method is, if that's something that jives with you, asking what your therapist's values are, because that's kind of important as well. If you're going to something that is very rooted in trauma, you don't want to be re-traumatized during your therapy process. Asking about the time commitments and whether they're going to be flexible with what fits well within your schedule when you're open, like your heart and your mind are going to be open to the process of therapy. And all of these questions, I think, will help to better your therapy experience. There's so many types: talk therapy, all of these creative arts therapies, psychotherapy, the access point, I think, will be something that you discover along the way. But music, definitely, if you haven't tried it before, I would say come on over. Come try music therapy, come try art therapy. It's a different way to access all of these things, and it's quite enjoyable. Sometimes you don't even know therapy is happening until after the fact. So
Richelle, did you have anything you wanted to add?
No, that's about it. Usually I do the intake process. Well, I do the initial calls, and I kind of get a feel from the referral or what the person is looking for. And then I think about the therapists that we have on staff and the personality, and especially the specializations, because like Hayley said, she specializes in dementia, although she works with children as well. So I look at that aspect of it, and then also what the client is actually looking to receive from the therapy. So you don't have to be good at any one of these. As a therapist, I go to therapy, and I do not see an art therapist. I see a drama therapist. So trying something outside your box. So if you say, oh, this is a good point. If you are good at art, I prefer for people that are good at art not to do art therapy, because they use their abilities to hide very well. So that's another reason why I don't do art therapy. I do something that's outside of my comfort zone so that I get uncomfortable, and the uncomfortableness is where you want to be.
That is an excellent point. And I think a lot of us will try to kind of go with the creative space that we feel the most comfortable. And so I absolutely love that you shared that, because it is something, and we might be subconscious about it too. We might not even realize that we're doing that, because
you can hide from it. Yeah, you can hide from it. So my drama therapist, because I do not like to perform, and she gets at me all the time.
So I want to bring in this this question from the audience. Sean Smith asks, do you ladies work closely with the police and the courts when it comes to victims of abuse, whether it's sexual or otherwise?
Yes, we get a lot of referrals from DCFS, and we are currently working on a program with the police right now, and we are going to use our collaborative to create a program specifically for the police department. So they'll get a bit of everybody.
Gotcha. And then we have another question on Tasha. She wants to know, how do we access your wonderful range of therapy? So I know I had the your contact information below, but could you let the audience know specifically, where they can find you online?
We are at www.caf.bermuda.com, or on Instagram at caf.bda, and also on Facebook. Email is info@cafbermuda.com. And we are located on Reed Street, 91 Reed Street, right next to Island Trading, the white building next to Island Trading.
I've definitely seen that building, and I hadn't really put two and two together, but now when I see, I'm gonna really recognize the sign now.
Well, upstairs. Well, the sign is not there yet. That's why.
Okay.
Pandemic. We haven't had a sign up. It's coming.
Got you.
But we're upstairs at Dance Sensation. So
okay.
Yeah. And each therapist has their own schedule, so you can actually book online. So if you're like, oh, I want to work with Hayley, you can book with Hayley right online, or Shadrina, or Rhea, or Treasure.
Nice.
I love that.
Yeah.
Well, actually, before we get up out of here, before we wrap up, this question from Angela Fab, I think is really important, or at least to see if we have this particular option. She wants to know, are any of these services available in the schools?
We're working on it.
Got it.
That's all I can say. We do go into the schools through DCFS, but politics, that's all I can say. We're working on it. Right, Hayley? We're working on it.
Yes. We're hopeful that it will happen soon.
Yeah.
I think with more conversations like this, people will start to hear that it's an option. I don't even think too many people even realize that this was available to them on the island of Bermuda, first of all. So I think now that we're a little bit more aware of it, I feel like people will maybe start to speak to their MP, or start to speak to someone that they know might be able to talk about this in a room. And hopefully it'll happen this month. For Black History Month.
Also, before we go, it's important that we don't just see children and seniors. We see women, we see men, we see from age 3 to 103.
Yeah, that was my next question. I was going to say, now what are the age ranges?
My youngest was about 2 that we had in the
Nice.
Oh wow! Okay, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
one last oh, I like that too. I was gonna ask, do you do group sessions? Do we bring in the families? Can we do all the families? That's beautiful. But Hayley, one last thing, because you do musical, but do you do vocal therapy as well? Like, can the person sing along with you?
Absolutely. Yeah, there's whatever range of musical experience somebody wants to experience if they're coming in. So, like any of my musical interventions would include instrument playing, singing, songwriting, lyric analysis, listening and relaxation, meditation, breathing, all of these kinds of things. Improvisation is a big thing that I think a lot of people come and like to explore just because, like Richelle said earlier, there's no proficiency level needed in order to participate in music therapy or any of these art therapies. We're not looking to grade you on how well your voice is, how well you can match a pitch. None of that is relevant in music therapy. So yeah, there's so many things that you can do. You can get hands-on as you want.
I love that.
I love that. Ladies, we thank you so much for joining us, first of all, bright and early on this Wednesday morning, but also for sharing all of the information that you did share. I feel like not only did we learn something new today, but we definitely realized that there are other ways for us to access, the support that we need, whether it be through talk therapy or if we want to try a creative approach. So thank you both for joining us, and we hope that you have an amazing rest of your day.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. It was
You're
wonderful talking to
welcome.
you.
All right.
Talk soon.
Bye.
So Jackie and I are going to take a quick commercial break, and then we'll be back right after this to get your thoughts on our conversation with Hayley and Richelle of Bermuda. So make sure if you haven't already, let us know your thoughts on the conversation. Drop them into the comments right now. Jackie and I will be right back with our Feel Good Vibe of the day, which is a form of creative therapy, if I do say so myself.
Same smooth sounds, different name. BCG Radio, home of Bermuda's most engaging morning talk shows, The Daily Hour and Good Day Bermuda. Download the app, available for Android and Apple devices. BCG Radio, your station for conversations and entertainment.
Welcome back to Good Day Bermuda, supported by Pete's House and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. If you're just joining us, we are getting ready to wrap up this episode. We just spoke to Hayley and Richelle of Bermuda. We spoke about creative therapeutic ways to improve your emotional and mental health. And I just want to come to some of the comments that came through during our conversation. Q Robertson said, painting or drawing your emotions must be an amazing form of expression. And I totally agree. When Richelle was explaining that she deals with traumatic persons, and just them being able to do that and release that without maybe having to talk through the actual experience again, probably is literally therapy. I just think this is such an amazing thing. And then Taja says, love this for our country. It is so needed. Couldn't agree more. Carlton Fleming, this is awesome and so necessary. Well done, ladies. And Angela Fubler says, awesome perspective and much needed option for our community. And wrapping it up with Sean Smith, nothing but nuggets. Literally a bunch of not only wisdom just on the different therapy options that we have, but just knowing that there's a suite of women of color doing it. So it's accessible to us.
And you can walk in and boom, everybody's there for your picking.
I love that.
You actually hop around. Today I'm going to try this, tomorrow I'm going to try that, until you figure out which one you actually prefer, or potentially do them all depending on your mood. I love having those options. We have options, kids.
And because we do talk about therapy, it's usually the talk therapy option that we talk about, and just knowing that we have options, so that maybe today we don't feel like talking, maybe today we do feel like dancing, or we do feel like just listening to music, or we want to draw or paint or make a clay something or do some woodwork. Knowing that we have those different options from a material perspective is just as great as well.
Yeah, but we've talked about it, right? What we do to make us feel better, singing, dancing, cooking, whatever the case may be. And now you have somebody else there with you that can help you through the process. Love it.
Absolutely love it. Now, Jack, it's feel good vibe of the daytime. That means it's joke time with Jackie. So as I mentioned, this is probably another creative way to improve your emotional and mental health. So Jackie, what are the corny dad jokes you have for us today? Because I think the audience is ready to just kind of end it on a good note.
All right, I got you guys. I got you. All right, what has 3 letters and starts with gas?
Gas.
A car.
Yeah, I thought it was a trick joke, and it wasn't. It was a real joke.
It was. Okay, what do you call a man who fixes potholes for a living?
A pot collector.
Phil.
Uncle Phil.
Yep, don't tell him. Okay, what do you call a guy who has cat scratches all over his face?
I don't know.
What do you call a guy
Uh-huh.
who has cat scratches all over his face?
I don't know. I'm scared.
Claude.
Claude. Poor Claude. Between Claude and Uncle Phil, they're not gonna have a great day today because you're the guy with cat scratches all over your face, Claude.
Exactly.
You fix potholes, Uncle Phil. As always, Jackie and I hope that today's Feel Good Vibe of the Day has you ready to make it a great one. And thank you so much for watching and engaging with this episode of Good Day Bermuda, which is supported by Pizza's and Aliana's Restaurant. I'm Terri Tuku alongside Jackie Lambert. We trust we'll see you tomorrow for more Feel Good conversations. Until the next episode, peace and have a good day, Bermuda.